So if this movie's any indication of the direction that the internet's going, fuck you, Twitter. I don't want no part of it. The Tangle is brought to us by director Christopher Soren Kelly and stars Joshua Bitton, Christopher Soren Kelly, and Jessica Graham. We follow Carter, played by Joshua Bitton, which we're led to believe is a private investigator or at least some type of shaker and mover in this future world that the movie takes place in. Carter's being interrogated by Edward and Laurel, played by Christopher Soren Kelly and Jessica Graham, respectively. What's he being interrogated for? Well, that's a little bit harder to explain. You see, in this future world, there is something called the Tangle. The Tangle is like a nanobite virus that's out there in the world. But it's not killing people or anything like that. No, it's meant to be out there. It's out there to infect people to keep everyone in line. As they say in the movie, you raise your hand for violence and the Tangle will not allow you to strike. There hasn't been a murder since the Tangle has been implemented until today. Edward and Laurel are one of the few people that operate outside of the Tangle. They live in a relatively small space that is Tangle free. They are there to be the human element in this world ruled by the Tangle. Kind of like a safety plan, just in case this thing gets a little bit too powerful, which by the way, it sounds kind of like it is. Apparently the Tangle started as the internet and evolved into what it is now. It connects everything and everyone at all times. Every bit of information you want, every place you want to be, anything you want, you can get through the Tangle. You can be anyone, you can have whatever you want. Only problem is, you don't really control you. You ultimately are controlled by the Tangle. And while its implementation has created this utopian society, more or less, the fact of the matter is, everyone is a prisoner at the end of the day. So the question is, if everyone is controlled by the Tangle and the Tangle will not allow anyone to kill someone, how did this woman get killed? And what part does Carter play, if any, in her murder? These are just a few of the questions that the Tangle asks, and it takes you on a hell of a ride to find those answers. Let me start by saying that this movie is pretty fucking great. I don't really want to go into details about the story too much because I don't want to give anything away. Just know that this is an intricate story with a whole lot of factors. There's lots of stuff that plays into this. You're not just handed everything over. You really gotta think. You really gotta pay attention to this movie. But if you do pay attention, you are in for one hell of a ride. Now this isn't like a fast-paced future sci-fi action movie by any means. The vast majority of the movie takes place in one fucking room. We do see some other locales here or there, but about 85 to 90% of this movie takes place within this Tangle-free safe room. But don't think that that means it gets boring. Hell no. This is an extremely interesting and intriguing story that grabbed me from the very beginning. I constantly wanted to know more about this world. It's presented to us in such an interesting way. And the movie smartly doesn't give you all the information right out the gate. You don't know what's going on at times. You have to pick up on how some of the things work in this world through the conversations that are happening on screen. Speaking of those conversations, this is some fantastic dialogue, but it's also really snappy and fast, like really fast. This movie does not wait for you. If you can't keep up, you're gonna get left behind. And while you don't always understand every single thing that's going on due to lack of information, I think that that was purposeful. The characters in the movie all don't know what's going on because of this whole situation that's happening, and I think this was a way to have you, the viewer, just as confused as them. It's never a frustrating confusion though. No, you're like a sponge from beginning to end, just soaking up every bit of the information you can get from this movie. And the story is pieced together and given out in such a creative way that you are glued to the screen all the way to the end. Now let's talk about that ending for a minute. I'm not gonna spoil it or anything, but I do want to say that when it comes to the ending of this movie, it didn't quite live up to the rest of the movie for me. It doesn't ruin it or anything, and it's not terrible, but it didn't give me quite the impact that the rest of the movie did. In fact, I saw some of it coming. Now, not by far. It wasn't like the beginning of the movie I said, yep, that's the one, that's who did it, this is what's gonna happen. No, it was later in the film that I started thinking, I think this might be what's going on. And while I didn't pick out every single detail of what happens in the end of the movie, there were some major parts of it that I had already guessed, and that did kind of lessen the impact of the end of the film. Once again, still good, but not quite as good as the journey getting to the end of the film. film. But that journey is fucking awesome. The look and presentation of the film is also really neat. It's very film noir, yet in the future. Watching some shots of this movie, you would be forgiven for thinking that it took place in like the 40s or 50s. It's heavily inspired by that era's noir films, even within its production design. Even the futuristic stuff inside this tangle-free zone has a very old school 30s, 40s, 50s noir feel. Even the high-tech stuff within this zone has that old school mechanical feel. It's an awesome look that oozes cool, and I just couldn't get enough of it. Overall, the story and execution of this film are top-notch. This is some great, grade A filmmaking. Now, something else that's great is the performances. These are some fantastic performances. There's not a whole lot of characters in this film, but the ones that are here absolutely leave an impression. Bitten, Kelly, and Graham do a fantastic job with this extremely fast, snappy dialogue. And they're not just spewing words out, they're actually performing this shit and making it seem natural, even though it's moving at about 1,000,000 fucking miles a minute. Their ability to make this extremely snappy dialogue seem natural and real is a true testament to the talent on display here. Everybody here does a fantastic job. There is one character that shows up a bit later in the film for a bit, and her character is a bit more shallow than the others, but that's not due to the performance. This character is brought in to do a thing, and she does it very well. She is quite effective in what she's there to do, but that's about all she does. There's just not much more for her character to do. The movie does have a fair amount of special effects in it, but it's not a special effects bonanza by any means. The digital effects that are here look really good. This is some high quality shit. None of it looks bad whatsoever. But the true star here is the set design. These are some absolutely gorgeous sets. The safe room that the majority of this movie takes place in is extremely detailed and oozes personality. It looks like a place that these people have been living in and working in for quite some time. There's so many things around this room that are so interesting, some of which we see in action, some of which we don't. It's just all extremely interesting to look at, which is a good thing because we spend the vast majority of the film in this room. The movie as a whole, its visual aesthetic just looks fantastic. It's an interesting, gorgeous looking movie through and through. After all said and done, I really enjoyed The Tangle. It's got a twisty-turny, interesting as hell, thought-provoking story that will definitely get the gears turning. Phenomenal performances, and the movie just looks fantastic. And while the ending did let me down just a bit, it was still a fantastic ride and is absolutely worth a rent.
All he wanted was this.
I have to return some videotape.
This movie was like this close to worth a buy. I mean, like, you ask me tomorrow and it might be worth a buy. Either way, this is a fantastic movie and absolutely worth your time. So if you're looking for a really interesting, thought-provoking, great-looking sci-fi for the night, check out The Tangle, and I think you'll have a great time with it. So there it is, guys, my review of The Tangle. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you liked what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, stay sexy, Cape Cod.
Going to crash the world. Do you hear me?
There's a thing that one character does to another character in this movie in the name of torture. It involves coffee and an orifice, that's all I'm gonna say, and it's just, it's like, it's just really fucked up, man. Who thought of this shit? It's real fucked up. I mean, I'm an avid coffee drinker. When I saw that shit, I was like, what the fuck? Why are you doing that? Jesus Christ. I mean, shit, man. The next morning, I couldn't even look at my cup of coffee the same way. What the fuck? You ruined coffee time.